All right, everybody. Hello, this is Rick Mantei, and I'm covering one of my heroes today, Teddy Roosevelt. Now, I'm gonna give you a couple tidbits here. He was the father of the modern U.S. Navy. Roosevelt was obsessed with naval power. It was be an understatement. He was a graduate of Harvard. His scholarship to the U.S. Navy during the War of 1812 is still cited today. He served as Undersecretary of the Navy as the conflict started in Cuba in 1898, and he sent the American Navy on a worldwide tour in 1907 as a show of strength. And then there was his ultimate naval power achievement with the Panama Canal, which is timely. That's going on right now. He was also blind in one eye after a boxing injury in the White House. He continued with his hobby of boxing well into his presidency. He suffered a detached retina in about 1908, stopped fighting. So, nobody's immune from that. As a child, he witnessed Abraham Lincoln's funeral procession. Can you believe that? There's a photo of the young Roosevelt perched in a window watching the procession in New York City in April of 1865 that surfaced in the 1950s, showing Teddy Roosevelt and his brother were at the grandfather's mansion watching the procession as it went underneath him. He had a really, really good memory. He claimed he had a photographic memory, but it is a statement that can't easily be proven today. But biographer and historian Edward Morris cited several documented cases where Roosevelt was able to recite obscure poetry and other content well over a decade after he read the documents. Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt were fifth cousins. Eleanor was Theodore's niece, and Uncle Theodore presented the bride at Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt's wedding, which is pretty interesting if you don't already know that. He once scaled the Matterhorn. While a student at Harvard, they warned Roosevelt, who had been a sickly kid, that because of his weak heart, failure to lead a sedentary life could have fatal consequences. "Doctor, I'm going to do all the things you tell me not to do," he responded. "If I've got to live the sort of life you have described, I don't care how short it is." After a year after graduation, he took time from his European honeymoon with Alice to scale the 15,000-foot Swiss Alps with two guides. Isn't that cool? He volunteered to lead an infantry unit in World War I. At the outbreak of World War I, he was 58 years old, was eager to return to the front lines. Roosevelt vehemently lobbied President Woodrow Wilson to send him to France at the head of a 200,000-man expeditionary force, but of course they declined it and they wouldn't send him. He's too important. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. The man famed for his exploits at San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War had the big stick diplomacy, captured the 1906 Nobel Peace Prize. And everybody's saying that Trump's going for that again today, so we'll see. His mother and his first wife died on the same day. On Valentine's Day in 1884, his mother passed away from typhoid, one floor above the same house that his first wife died less than 12 hours later from Bright's disease and complications from giving birth to the couple's first child just 2 days before. "The light has gone out of my life," he wrote. But, he recovered, and of course he became president. So the rest is, pretty much history. He burnt his presidential portrait. Not known as a vain man, he still was disappointed in his official portrait. And so that last act he had when he was out of office at the end of his term was he burnt that picture. He just could not stand it. He was the first president to leave the country during his term. He, who had petitioned for the construction of the Panama Canal for years, couldn't resist an opportunity to see the site for himself. When plans were finally underway in 1906, he visited Panama, and doing so, he became the first president to travel outside the United States while holding office. That's pretty cool. He was the first former president to fly in an airplane. And you can see those pictures all over the place where he did that. And that must have been a pretty heavy airplane, because he was a heavy dude whenever he did that flight. And finally, I want to read the reason that he's one of my heroes. The man in the arena. This is from him. "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, but because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms and great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows at the end of that triumph or high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails by daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." That's an awesome statement. And so that's one of the reasons he's my hero. So until next time, you guys take care of yourself. Bye-bye.